The U.S. military shoots down another object, this time over Lake Huron, making this the fourth shoot down in about 1 week. Joining us now is Lucas Tomlinson with the latest. Lucas.
Well, good afternoon. This is the fourth time in 8 days the U.S. military has shot down an object over North America, certainly unprecedented in the history of this country. We just learned some new details from Michigan Congressman Jack Bergman, of course, a retired Marine Corps three-star general and former CH-46 pilot, which Joey knows all about, of course. He says this a U.S. Air Force F-16 fighter jet shot down a mysterious octagonal object over Lake Huron earlier today using a Sidewinder missile. That object flying at 20,000 feet. That's notable because that's much lower than those two objects shot down over the past 2 days. This is now the third object shot down in the past 3 days, guys, starting on Friday when an object was shot down over the north coast of Alaska, as you see here on this chart, right on the northern coast of Alaska. That search for the debris has been hampered by rough weather. It's minus 20 degrees up there. It's very, very difficult. And then, of course, yesterday, another object was blasted out of the sky by a U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor. It's notable that it was a U.S. Air Force jet shooting this thing down over the skies of Canada and Canadian airspace. That was on joint orders from President Biden and Canada's Prime Minister. And just as we know now, just moments ago, a U.S. Air Force F-16 fighter jet shooting down this object over Lake Huron. And of course, this came just hours after some airspace over Lake Michigan had been closed because they thought they detected something. But then NORAD and the FAA lifted that restriction. We don't know if that's because this object had passed through there. Obviously, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron are very close together with the state of Michigan in between. And as you see on the map there on the left side, radar anomaly, just hours after that shoot down of the object over Canadian airspace yesterday, the FAA closed some airspace down over Montana, right near the border with Canada, of course, near Malmstrom Air Force Base, home to some U.S. nuclear missile silos. F-15 Eagles were scrambled from Portland, Oregon. They went in, they didn't see anything, and the NORAD later put out a statement, guys, saying it was a radar anomaly, essentially saying this is a false alarm. However, Senator John Tester from Montana was on CBS this morning. He believes there was and is something up there. Now, Montana around this area is about 1,500 miles to Lake Michigan, Lake Huron. It's not immediately clear, was this the same object? You know, these flying objects have not been traveling very quickly. Of course, when you go back over a week ago, you had that gigantic 2,000-pound Chinese spying apparatus that was shot down off the coast of South Carolina, also by an F-22 Raptor, that one out of Langley Air Force Base. So just one more time, this is the fourth time in 8 days the U.S. military has shot down an object over the skies of North America, guys.
Okay, and thank you, Lucas. And I can imagine folks at home are wondering, you know, first of all, we don't know where the other three are from, for their origins, right? Correct. Okay, correct. But also you've got to wonder, you know, how can any of these be used to harm us in any way? Are these enemy states testing our perimeter and testing our response? I mean, these are a lot of questions that are coming up, I imagine, for Americans.
Right, Alicia. One thing that's very notable, it appears that these three objects that have been shot down over the last 3 days all were able to penetrate U.S. airspace. They were not detected until they were already inside this country. That is very concerning for military officials. Of course, we heard from NORAD's commanding general, General Van Herk, who called it essentially a blind spot. I think he called it a domain awareness gap, a little bit of Pentagonese there. But bottom line is it's a blind spot. But, you know, not unlike the Super Bowl, most of us are about to watch this evening, you know, what do countries, adversaries look for? They look for these blind spots. They look to exploit. And that is what appears to be happening. However, once again, just a word of caution. Top officials at the Pentagon, here at the White House, we heard from Canada's defense minister last night in Ottawa. She said we do not know the origin of any of these objects. The object shot down over Canada yesterday, the object just shot down over Lake Huron, and certainly that object shot down off the north coast of Alaska on Friday.
Lucas, what we don't know is driving the questions we have. Obviously, it's driving our curiosity, our imagination. Our minds are going everywhere, and hopefully we're going to get more information soon. One thing that I'm doing my own research and looking at a report or an update from Jennifer Griffin is basically the idea that we have universities that put balloons of observation. I want to say weather balloon, but even more than that. We have universities that do that, corporations that do that, local municipalities and their weather service that do that. Is the Pentagon doing anything to cross-reference these before they shoot them down? Are they looking into where they could be from a friendly place before they shoot them down? Is there any system in place that tracks those types of objects in the sky? One of the comments that Jennifer gave us was one of the senior Pentagon officials said there's trash all in the sky.
Right, Joey. And of course, you remember your time in the Marine Corps. You know, you are very careful what you shoot at. You look at what the target is, what's also behind it. There's no question. This is why the Pentagon, NORAD, are scrambling fighter jets to get a visual ID before opening fire. These aren't just shooting down, targets beyond visual range. It's why they're using these AIM-9 Sidewinders. That's a heat-seeking missile. You got to be in short range to use them, and that's why they're being studied for hours. In the case of that gigantic spy balloon that traveled across the United States on that week-long odyssey, of course, they took a lot of time to observe it. But certainly these three objects, they all appear to be a little bit different, however. We heard from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, of course, a member of the Gang of Eight. He is privy to some of the nation's closest held secrets. He called the objects, certainly the one over Canada, shot down a balloon. U.S. officials have told Fox in the past 24 hours the object shot down over Canada was this small metallic balloon, and it was tethered to a small payload. Friday, we heard from John Kirby at the podium here at the White House, who said the object was the size of a small car, certainly much smaller than what was called a giant 2,000-pound Chinese spy apparatus that was the size of 3 school buses. But back to your question, Joey, there's no question visual ID is happening. Of course, you have things like IFF, radar from a weather balloon. You're not going to get IFF, of course. It's unmanned. They don't even file a flight plan. I mean, they might do a notice to airmen, launch those things. But officials tell me it'd be very difficult to think that the U.S. military is just blasting weather balloons out of the sky with $500,000 Sidewinder missiles.
I mean, that's absolutely fair. Right now, we just don't know. They're telling me that we have pictures now of, I believe this is the plane going over Lake Huron, the plane that responded to that balloon or that object.
Could be an airliner, let's be fair. I mean, that's really far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is notable, that Congressman Jack Bergman is a former Marine Corps 3-star general. He flies CH-46s. Joe, you know about. They've probably taken a few rides back in your day on those C-Nights. He knows what he's talking about when he said it was a U.S. Air Force F-16. That's notable, of course. A lot of F-16s in the Air National Guard. Yesterday, you had F-15 Eagles scrambling from Portland to respond to that, what seemingly was a false alarm over Montana. However, you don't have to do a basic dead reckoning to know that, if something is traveling east and it was spotted over Montana last night, this could very well be that same object. We don't know. We do know that Senator John Tester this morning was pretty testy on CBS saying he thought an object was up there. He didn't buy the radar anomaly excuse from NORAD.
Lucas, we also have a tweet from Montana Congressman Matt Rosendales saying, I'm in constant communication with NORCOM, and they have just advised me that they have confidence there is an object and is not an anomaly. I'm waiting now to receive visual confirmation. Our nation's security is my priority. Obviously, you've got congressmen from this region that are sounding the alarm. Their constituents, I know because I'm from the Midwest, I'm from South Dakota, their constituents probably are not very used to this kind of activity happening over their airspace. So my question for you is this. Is it now, because we saw this Chinese spy balloon last weekend was visible to the naked eye? Now we've got these other objects that may or may not be visible to the naked eye. What is the likelihood that there have been objects like this flying over our airspace, penetrating our airspace for a long time, and now the American government is just on high alert for these kind of objects?
Well, I think there's no question. By the way, that tweet by Congressman Rosendale, he was obviously very fired up and was not buying that statement from NORAD last night that called this a radar anomaly, seemingly a false alarm. He was very convinced, based on conversations he had been having with officials, that this was a real target, a real contact in the sky. And it appears, if it's the same contact that it now headed east, that he was correct. Back to what you're saying, Tommy, about spotting these on radar. I've been told we have sound from Senator Tester. Let's all have a listen.
The truth is that there was an anomaly, and they've investigated. I think it got dark last night, so they couldn't fully check it out. What's gone on the last, 2 weeks or so, 10 days, has been nothing short of craziness. And the military needs to have a plan to not only determine what's out there, but determine the dangers that go with it.
So Senator Tester was obviously a little fired up there, saying he was very convinced something in the sky. It's also notable, though, when he says it got dark out. I mean, that's just not how the U.S. military works. In fact, the U.S. military sometimes works best at night. Certainly, we're trying to get a visual ID. Of course, that's more challenging. But it's not like our pilots don't have nods and can't see at night. The U.S. military is an all-weather service, can see at any time. Just bottom line is, once again, this is the fourth time in 8 days the U.S. military shot down an object over North America. Tommy, going back to your question about why these aren't being spotted, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking about a little analogy that it's almost like looking for emails in your inbox. If I told you to look for something in your inbox and you just count it, you spend hours, maybe days, trying to find certain emails. But if you have a keyword search, it's easier to find those emails. I think a very similar thing right now going with the radar picture. Right now, the Pentagon has collected a lot of data from these objects, from that giant Chinese spy craft, and they've gone back into the systems because, of course, all this radar data is stored, just like civilian satellite companies like Planet or Maxar. They'll keep all that stuff. They have to. The Pentagon's the same way, NORAD. So what they're doing is going back in time and seeing, do we think we ever heard or saw this? That's where it's coming from. That's why when they said this happened during the Trump administration, you heard from President Trump and all his top aides say, we don't remember this. That's because they didn't know. Many people in the Pentagon didn't know. And frankly, a lot of these discoveries were dismissed. Officials have come clean with that, saying they did not rise to the level. Some military pilots saying, look at those Tic-Tac videos, not TikTok, Tic-Tac from USS Nimitz. Remember those UFOs that were seen buzzing around, the heads-up display from those Navy pilots? Remember, they're saying, this is going so fast. Whoa, can't believe it. There's a chance this is what could be a very similar craft. We just don't know the origin over these last three objects. But just remember, U.S. spy satellites for years, they're not looking for small, slow balloons. U.S. military spy satellites, IR birds in particular, they're looking for missile launches in North Korea. They're looking at aircraft, troop movements, China, North Korea, Russia, of course, over Ukraine. That's what spy satellites are doing. They're looking at a lot of stationary objects or missile launchers. And because they have that data in the systems, if it's like a large explosion, how much orange flame is there? That's how they identify. You know, when these North Korean missiles go up within seconds, minutes, you get those statements out of the Pentagon. They even know what class it is, a KN-23, KN-24. I don't want to get into the weeds of North Korean ballistic missiles here, but that's how they know, is it an ICBM? They see them rolling out of like the closet, the storage, and all that. Anyway, I digress. I'm going on a little long here.
Lucas, quick question, quick answer. The administration's messaging to this point has been reactive, defensive, and inconsistent. The president is spending a rare weekend at the White House. He hosted that black tie event for America's governors. Can we expect to hear from him, or has the White House already called a lid on the day, indicating that we will not be hearing from the commander-in-chief, given this breaking news?
That's right, Joe. President Biden's right here behind me. He's in residence here at the White House, and he had, by all counts, a lovely dinner at the White House last night. Black tie affair. Everybody had their dinner jacket on, hosting the nation's governors. Obviously, not everyone attended. Governor Ron DeSantis, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders did not attend. There was a musical guest, country star Brad Paisley. Of course, all that was going down. The FAA was closing airspace over Montana, and those Eagles had scrambled from Portland, trying to figure out, was there another object over the skies of Montana. Of course, that was only hours after that object was shot down over Canadian airspace. It was very notable yesterday, though, Joe, a little digression here, but I think we have some time to fill, it was a Canadian defense minister taking the lead. Canada was taking the lead yesterday. It was very clear that the White House, the Pentagon, you weren't going to hear officials. We heard about a phone call between Biden's defense secretary, Lloyd Austin, and his Canadian counterpart. Otherwise, the Canadians took the lead, although it was very notable. It was a U.S. Air Force fighter jet that shot down that object in Canadian airspace.
Lucas Tomlinson, thank you so much for breaking all this down for us. A great job. Lucas Tomlinson at the White House. We'll get back to you as news warrants.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.